So what you're seeing on the screen, if you're watching on the Real Change, is I have my tripod. Um, I have the TikTok camera right on me, and I have the camera from StreamYard right on me. And I don't have the sound on because I think it will echo, but I'm not sure. Let me see. Since I'm telling my own story, I need someone to go to the Real Change page and tell me if you can hear me. I'm thinking that you can, but you never know. Hey, hippie creations by Miss Kimmy. Hey, Kimmy. All right, so here we go. Thank you, Angel. Hopefully, you can hear me. Hey, Lori, can you hear me? Okay, good. All right, so here we go. My name is Tina Durbin, and I am a survivor of narcissistic abuse, in particular, which is a type of domestic violence. I am going to start out by telling you a little bit about my childhood. So, I grew up in a house where the coffee pot was on 24/7. My parents had great conversations over coffee. So, what I'm doing today is not a stretch, okay? Um, my father told me early on, because I used to try to get in the middle of the conversations, especially when it was politics and things I knew nothing about. But my dad said, until you read the newspaper every day and you drink coffee every day, you really don't have anything to say. So I was damned and determined that I would read the newspaper every day, that I would drink coffee every day, and then I would have something to say at the dinner table when it was time to have a conversation about the news. And so I did all that. And I went to school. I have a bachelor's and a master's in education. And I feel like in many ways my life has been quite privileged. I am the first in my family to have graduated from high school, and I am the first to go on to college. So I did a lot of right things for the right reasons. My mom told me that I could change the world, even if it was just one person at a time. So, I really do believe in each one, reach one, teach one. And I've devoted my life to trying to make sure that people feel validated and accomplished, and that they are lifelong learners, and all the good things. But along the way, I never really believed in myself. I always felt like I was trying to accomplish something to prove to someone else something about me. And really, you don't need to do anything to prove your worth. You are worthy by your birth. Just you have value because you were born. But I always felt like I needed to prove to everyone something. And my dad was hard. I mean, my dad was like, if you get a B, why wasn't it an A? If you could have written this 10-page paper, why couldn't it have been 15? I mean, it was just a constant push, and really hard on myself. Hey, thank you, Miss Gina. Thank you to everyone that's on the Real Change page and on my maybe personal page, as well as in the groups, YouTube, and of course TikTok. So I had spent my whole life, and I'm still looking for that love, that power couple, dynamic duo, be the change you want to see in the world. And I really thought that people were inherently good. And I still do. And I really believe that more people are like me than are not. I didn't date a lot in high school. I didn't date a lot in my 20s. I did meet and marry someone in my mid 20s, but it was a quick relationship, and then we got married. I think for a long time I equated sex with love. As you can see from my conversation, I've done a lot of backward analyzing before I could come forward. So when I turned 50 in 2014, in January, I started a journal called There Is No One Youer Than You. Because at that time, it seemed like everyone I was searching for was never quite the person. And for one reason or another, relationships started and relationships ended, and it just seemed to be the way it was. And that was okay. It wasn't, they weren't good people or bad people. They were just people. And it didn't work out, and I would break up, and that would be it. But this is where my story begins. Because when I was 50, I started on a journey of discovering me, who I was and who I wanted to be. So the question I asked, who are you? Where have you been and where are you going? That did not come about by accident, because I was asking myself those questions at 50. And by that time, I had been a teacher for many, many years. I had been working really hard in the classroom to help students be all that they could be. And when I started the journal, There's No One Youer Than You, I decided that I would start using Facebook as my journal. And so I started writing things on Facebook that was about my processing, my analyzing, my thoughts about things, and I wanted to be the same, online, offline, family, friends, strangers, work. I was one person. I was in alignment. Okay. In October of 2014, I met a man online. He lived in Tennessee. And what I did not know then, but I know now, is he is what is considered a mirror narcissist. And I wrote this after I broke up with him. The relationship was crazy from the beginning, but there are basically 3 stages to narcissism: love bombing, devaluation, and discard. And if you discard them, it's actually an escape from. But I didn't know any of that. I mean, I met a guy who told me everything I needed to know, because everything I told him, he mirrored back to me. So if you'll give me just a moment, I'm going to find the piece that I wrote called Mirrors. And I'm going to have to probably at some point move closer to the screen, because like I said, I can't see all that well like I used to be able to. Okay. So I'm going to take off my glasses. I'm going to get a little close to the screen. I'm going to move this a little bit. Okay. So I wrote this after I left him, after I knew what was happening. Mirrors. We look in them each morning to see who we are presenting to the world. We look at our eyes and our hair and our teeth. We style our clothes, and we make sure each hair is in place. We put on jewelry to draw attention to our style, and we smile as others compliment us. We shy away as they admire our clothes and our hair, our jewelry and our fashion sense, because we know none of this is the reflection we really want the world to see. We want the world to see us as us. But all we often see is how we think the world sees us. We smile when we don't want to. We believe when it seems too good. We support when we love another. We mirror to the world what we wish the world mirrored back. And then along comes a mirror who admits his cracks. I'm going to take this off the stand for a moment. Hopefully I don't lose you, because I'm going to move this so that hopefully I can see better. Okay. And then along comes a mirror who admits his cracks and says he doesn't need every hair in place. He admires your flaws and he sees you as blessing despite your outer dressing. He says all the right things and he brings you flowers. He seems to be the change you've been waiting for, and he encourages you to be more than you ever saw in the mirror. As you stand in front of that mirror, your reflection frown becomes a crown of glory, and you believe in what he sees. Your reflection is a woman who is strong and beautiful. Your outside shows the inside, and you glow. And as you glow, the glitter shines in the silver of that mirror. Just when the mirror inside matches the mirror outside, a crack begins to appear in the corner. It widens and it deepens as the crevice in the mirror grows longer. The man who said he saw everything now says he sees nothing. The man who said he loved your flaws now sees them as reasons of anxiety. He sees your shared vulnerabilities and insecurities as weaknesses, and he reflects them daily as he throws them up in your face. When you look in the mirror, the cracks begin to creep across your face as you trace each fallen tear. Each tear is a fear that has replaced the beauty once seen in the mirror. As you strain to find the glimpse of the woman in the mirror who loved the flaws of the man who loved your unpolished finish, you realize he simply gazed upon your jewels, and as you gave, he took. But as he took, you gave, and you lost the look of a man who never really saw you. The truth is, the mirror only reflects what it sees. When you see a stronger woman, it isn't a reflection of what another sees, but instead it is what you are reflecting. When a man mirrors your strengths, he is seeing into your soul. Don't be fooled by what shines and glitters as others see your crown, but instead be impressed by the man who reflects his own crown. Then, and only then, can a king and a queen truly reflect to the world a kingdom of love and loyalty and royalty. So I hope that gives you an understanding of a mirror narcissist. So basically, I was involved with, although I cannot diagnose 100% with certainty, a covert, malignant, narcissistic sociopath who is cerebral, smart, and somatic. He plays in the emotional arena. Thank you, Brianna. And I'm trying to be strong because, believe me, I could cry at the drop of a hat. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. Hey, Miss Karen. Hey, Patricia. Hey, everybody. So growing up, I was not a skinny child. I often say laughingly that I'm pretty certain that even my skeleton isn't going to be skinny. Um, I went through a lot of changes in my late 30s and 40s when I had gastric bypass surgery. But still, I have gained weight back. I'm going to read a poem at the end that talks a little bit more about that. So we basically, we want to believe that people are inherently good, and I did, and I still do. But I had no idea that someone like him actually existed. He is someone who capitalizes, especially financially, on other women. And he plays in a very small circle of games. The abuse that I endured was predominantly mental, emotional, financial. He capitalized on my social connections, my intellectual ability, and I'm not saying that I am well connected or smarter than anybody else, because it took me 39 months to figure this bullshit out. But he capitalized on my social connections, my intellectual ability. For a long time, I did not really connect that there was a physical or a sexual component to the relationship, especially in regard to the abuse. But I realize now that that is not the case, because physically I have endured, oh my goodness, insomnia, eating late at night because it was hard to eat when he was there, because there was always so much drama and trauma and confusion. A lot of just word salad constantly talking at me. There was also a lot of the sexual component, because as much as he was cheating nonstop, I want you to remember this fact. He and I were never intimate. Okay? So he did a lot of future faking, which is another tactic by some narcissists. So he learned to capitalize by dangling the carrot, except you never get the carrot. But trust me, there were a lot of rabbits out there that were getting the carrot. I'm sure it wasn't worth having, but that's another issue. But lo and behold, I never got the carrot. But I certainly started early on believing the things that he said. We're the power couple. We're the dynamic duo. We're out to change the world. We're going to be the change we want to see. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. And I started paying for things. There was always some reason why he needed money. I look back now, and I am almost 99.9 plus 0.1% certain that he was probably living with someone when I met him. That probably I was paying some bills in a household I didn't know existed. Yes, Susie, absolutely, it was a blessing in disguise. But at the time, it poked at every insecurity I had about my own weight, my own beauty, and my own insecurities about all of that. And yes, you're right, Rainey. He was intimate with me but he was not sexually intimate with me. And partly that was me. I said from the beginning, until we got more established, your parts work, my parts work, our parts don't need to meet. Well, they never met. But for those of you who have not lived in this kind of relationship, I want to read a couple of other things that I wrote. So one of them is called dishes. Okay. Whoops. All right. So again, most people think about domestic violence in terms of physical assault. But I did not endure any physical punching. But here's a typical day with a narcissist. I'm going to read a couple of things that I have written and shared on my Facebook page. A typical day with a narcissist. Replace the word dishes with any other item or situation, and it's the same facts to make you walk on eggshells. This was my daily lived experience. Narcissist, why didn't you do the dishes? Victim, because I needed to run a bunch of other errands and was going to do them when I got home. Victim, so after doing the dishes before leaving home. Narcissist, why didn't you put the dishes away? Victim, I wanted to let them dry first. Victim, so after doing the dishes before leaving and making sure to dry them and put them away. Narcissist, I noticed a dirty plate had been put in the cabinet. Why didn't you clean them better? Victim, I was rushing to make sure they were done and put away dry before I left the house. Narcissist, can you not do anything right? Victim, I'll be more careful, sorry. Victim, after washing the dishes, inspect them to make sure they are clean, drying them and putting them away before leaving the house. Narcissist, I heard you doing the dishes this morning while I was trying to sleep. Why do you have to make so much damn noise? Victim, I'm sorry. I was trying to make sure all the dishes were done, clean, dried, and put away before I left the house. I was running late. Narcissist, just leave the dishes for me to do. It's obvious you can't do them. Victim, okay, fine. More for me to do as I already don't do enough. Home all day. This was his life. Home all day, not working, stays on the phone, entertains others at the house when I'm gone. Victim, I'm happy to do the dishes, but, and I need to move my little. No, this is the narcissist. No, don't worry about it. I got it. Yeah, as I said, replace dishes with any other item. And please know, it won't change. It won't get better. Save yourself. Stop playing the game because you will never win and you will never know the rules. Make a plan. Get away. I'm going to read you something else that I wrote. Again, this is for those of you who have never been in a domestic situation. It is hard to explain the craziness that you are trying to make sense of, but you'll never make sense of because it's too much. It's just when you think you figure it out, they flip the table and go a different direction. So you're like, what? That's not what we were doing yesterday. Why are we doing that today? This is the poem I wrote called Two. PTSD, what does it look like? Some things Some think it's one incident and you are troubled by that one event, such as SA or witnessing a crime, war, something like that. But what does PTSD look like for an abuse victim? Repeated trauma creates complex PTSD. For example, tonight it dawned on me after some silence. I was watching TV and I recalled clearly something I had never spoken about before. When I was living in the home where the narcissistic abuse was occurring, I was often told I made too much noise. Where the music and the TV were often on downstairs in his area of the house 24/7. I was constantly being yelled at for making too much noise, so I compensated. I watched Lips and I turned the captions on when I was watching TV. I turned the sound all the way down on the TV so as not to make noise. I would make coffee and sit in the kitchen for hours, afraid to move because I would make noise. Then he was mad because I was too quiet and always seemed to be sneaking around. But there's more. If he did come upstairs to watch the TV during the day when I was gone, and the captions had been left on, he would yell at me for being too stupid to remember to turn them off because they annoyed him. And if I tried to explain why I had them on, I was too sensitive or too emotional. Over time, I was just too sad, and it was too bad. And finally, I was too smart, and I was too glad to have escaped simply being too much. Too loud, too quiet, too stupid, too sensitive, too sad, too emotional, too bad, too smart, too glad, too much. I am so grateful that I am too much because now I am too right to ever be too controlled. I am too much my own woman to ever be too alone. I am too awesome. This is narcissism. This is abuse. This is PTSD. This is healing. I wrote that on January 6th of 2022. That was almost 5 years after I had escaped. And yes, you are right, Donna. You are always too much, but still not enough. But not enough. So I wrote that again. I never want an abuse victim to think that they are to blame for something. But at the same time, setting boundaries, expecting respect, and looking back, you have to realize where something in your past led to them, and that's what you have to heal, because trust me, you never want another them. When we were living together in the house, so I met him in October of 2014. Like I said, things never matched up. Things were always a little bit, crazy. There was always drama. There was always chaos and confusion. There was always a need for money from me. He would come to Lexington and we would go places together. A lot of it was under the guise of the business that I had been coerced into starting. So we would go out, and what I didn't realize was, while he's telling me I love you and I love who we are, he's telling other people that I am nothing more than a business partner and a friend. But I didn't know that. I didn't know that behind the scenes he was playing something different. Because a lot of times I didn't talk to these people. Because if I talked to these people, I was handling him. But yet he would have me, again, this was another thing. He would have me email them to schedule something. But then when they called me back, he was upset because they had called me back. And it's like, but I wrote the email asking them to get with us about a time. Why wouldn't they call me back? So things like that were, I look back now and it like the whole thing was a red flag. But I just couldn't put it together for the longest time. So by May of 2016, we moved in together. We actually got a house together. And it was, of course, all on my dime. Shortly after we moved in together, it was up close and personal. And he couldn't hide behind the mask. So up close and personal. So he started staying out kind of late at night right away. Some nights all night right away. Taking a lot of phone calls out in the car. It was just weird stuff like this. And then about 3 months into us living there together, mind you, I was upstairs and he was downstairs. Our parts had still not met. He wanted someone to move in with us. A friend that he said he had known for 6 years. It should have been a red flag. Of course, he said, her son is in prison. She needs to be influenced by someone like you, appealing to my nurturing side, my teaching side, my compassionate side, as well as badger. And lo and behold, she moved in. Wow, the table flipped immediately. It was the craziest thing ever in my life. He would do a lot of things, though, that kept us, she and I, from actually really communicating or being friends with each other. Of course, like I said, they told me they had known each other for 6 years. They had been good friends. But I found out after I escaped the relationship, they met each other just a few months before he actually moved to Lexington. And so the whole thing was a lie. But I had no knowledge of him prior to having met him online. And I'm not going to tell you that I think necessarily meeting someone online is bad, because I know people that have done it and it's worked out and it's been great. I mean, online is where people are these days. Okay. Yes, triangulation, Rainey. They like to pit you against someone else. And because they create so much drama and trauma, chaos and confusion between the two of you, it actually creates an opportunity for them to tell both of you different things, because the last thing you want to do is talk to each other. Because I'm being told I'm too jealous, and I'm sure she was also being told, well, she thinks I'm her boyfriend, but I'm not her boyfriend. I'm your boyfriend. Just craziness. Okay. So again, we didn't talk to each other. The one time that I remember she and I were becoming close, she'd had a couple of drinks. I'm sitting in the kitchen. We're just talking. We're laughing. We're being girls. And we start giggling. All of a sudden, in a complete narcissistic rage, and attack. He comes from the downstairs area. He slams open the door. He starts screaming at both of us. And he slams out the front door. He gets in his car and he drives away. And she and I look at each other and she says, "Shall we talk about being bipolar?" And I was like, yeah, we're definitely something. Okay. But in true fashion, she went to her room. I went to the kitchen, I went to the living room, and it was like, okay, well, what the hell was that? He came back a few hours later as though nothing had happened. But from that moment on, trust me, you begin to realize, don't ask any questions. Don't act like you know anything. Just be quiet. Take it in. Don't let it out. You just learn to walk on eggshells and just don't ask anything. Don't know anything. Don't ask anything. Don't assume anything. Don't anything. So lo and behold, about a year, I finally got really, really tired of her presence in the home. But I didn't know how to end it because, once you start something, you don't know how to end it. And also you get to the point where it's like, I've said a couple of times over the last few nights, once you've told everyone how great it is, you don't really want to tell everybody, this is crazy. What am I living? So I first told a friend of mine that I've known for many, many years. I told her that we weren't sleeping together. And she said, don't you think he's probably getting it somewhere else? That was the first seed that got planted. Okay. Then I met somebody that I had gone to university with. And we were talking. I had gone on a trip and we met for dinner. And she started telling me about her marriage and it had ended. And when she talked a lot about some of the just craziness and the confusion, that planted a seed. Then, all of a sudden, I reconnected with someone that I had taught with many years ago. And people were saying things like, you seem different. You seem quiet. I had someone tell me that I was shrinking. And I was. I was stepping into the background so that he could have the foreground. I was doing lots of things that were protecting him because I was involved in an interracial relationship. And so part of what he played as victim was Black man in America. And I agreed. He was a Black man in America. And they don't always get the fair shake. But as long as he was the only victim, it was good. But if he wasn't the only victim, and I was trying to do things in the community for him and for others to change the world, I was being screamed at home. That never made any sense to me. So lo and behold, the house was crazy. The relationship was crazy. The money was out of control. The woman living with us was crazy. And so finally I said, I don't know what's going on, but you're not working. She's not working. I'm working. And my brother is going to God's pantry. Something's got to give. And here's where we're starting. She needs to get out of the house. He tried to talk me into 6 months, and I said, no, 3 months. She has 3 months to get out of the house. She left in 2. It got even crazier because while I'm figuring everything out, he is lying left and right. Listen, I could do a whole episode on some crazy lies that are really rather comical. Okay? But I hung on. I kept thinking, he's going through a lot of things, something's not right. I feel bad for him, because I was paying for everything. I knew that if I left him high and dry, he'd be homeless, he'd be this, he'd be that. I'm someone who wants to change the world one person at a time. I don't want to see anybody suffer. Thank you, Christina. So, on October 11th, 2017, my friend made a post on Facebook, and I read it. And I was like, oh my God, that's my life. Like, she was quoting an excerpt from a book. And I was reading it and I was going, oh my God, that's like my life. At the same time, my friend Cindy in Washington used the word narcissism. Someone else told me that the financial abuse that I was experiencing, especially the financial and all that, was domestic violence, because I wrongly thought, and if I can educate anybody out there, physical violence is one aspect of being abused, intimate partner, domestic, but mental, emotional, social, intellectual, financial, all of that is abuse as well. Like I said last night, all narcissists are abusers. Not all abusers are narcissistic. If you know, you know, and if you don't, be grateful. I had no idea that this type of person existed. So in January of 18, by the time I got really smart, too smart, and I figured the whole thing out, I escaped from him. In a fit of narcissistic rage, he's screaming at the top of his lungs, and I decide to cuss him out. Anybody who knows me knows I can say kiss my ass and F you in a heartbeat. Or I can throw a lot of big words at you. But on that particular day, I did not slow down my words. And I call it the 49-second F you video because I said F you about 49 times. But you know what? Instead of trying to calm the situation down, he recorded me because it fit his narrative. He records me, and he has posted that video everywhere and then some. Okay. I called the police. Something I never thought I would do, especially he controlled me many times by saying, you're not like other white women. You would never call the police. If you only knew how guilty I felt about that day and how long I felt guilty about that day, you would be very surprised. But I did. I felt very, very guilty. I called the police, and as soon as he heard me on the phone, His demeanor went from to this. He comes around the corner and his face looks immediately calm, like a completely different person. I hung up on the police. Thank you, God. They sent them anyway. As I explained when I watched the Gabby video, I see myself. Because I see myself standing on the porch trying to explain to the police that if he wants to stay for the weekend, he can. But he needs to be gone by Monday. And yet, inside, I'm telling the police, I don't know what to do, and I'm crying. I was so confused. I wanted to protect him. I wanted him gone. I didn't know how to end it. I just wanted it to stop. Gina always says that. Gina always says, abusers don't stop, but the victim just wants it to stop. They just want someone to step in strong enough to say, stop. Just stop the abuse. But you don't know how to do it because by that time, they've made you out to be the crazy one. They made you out to be the confused one. And they're telling everyone else something different. And then society says, why did you stay? Why didn't you leave? Didn't you know? And no, you don't. You don't know. Because you are trying to get back to the individual you met. And what has been the most confusing and heartbreaking part is that the person you met never existed. So not only do you have to heal from all the things that may have led you into that relationship, your own trauma, but you have to heal from the grief of realizing the person you met never existed. The relationship was in your head. So when he said to everyone, I was never involved with her, you wonder, he really never was. He's telling the truth, but putting a major spin on it. And you're like, what? What? I filed an EPO. It was granted. He showed himself to be something when we were in court that day. And they saw right away what I had never seen. The EPO was granted, and the first thing he did was file sexual abuse charges against me. That was one of the first things. And I thought to myself, uh-oh, Angel, I don't know what I said. He went and filed sexual abuse charges against me. And luckily for me, those charges never went anywhere. But he knew they're very calculating. But he knew that as a teacher, that would have ended a career. Over the course of 5 years, he filed probably 15 different things against me. So legal abuse is another aspect that some narcissists enjoy playing the game. So he likes the court system. He likes to create the paper trail that looks as though one thing has happened when really something else is happening. I want to read to you another piece that I wrote. This one's called Puzzle. If you have never lived in a narcissistically abusive relationship, then it truly can be quite difficult for you to understand. Here's the best way to describe it. Upon first meeting, every piece of the puzzle matches perfectly, and the picture is so crystal clear. It seems as though every piece you pick up is exactly the piece you are looking for. And the picture in your mind is being painted each day with just the right colors. That's the love bombing. As time passes, you have lots of puzzle pieces, and yet the picture seems off. And sometimes you aren't sure of the picture you once saw. But the puzzle picture is in your memory. And so you keep searching for the pieces to fit perfectly. This is the devaluation, and this is also a part of the trauma bond. Upon leaving, you now have the picture, and as you look back, every piece of the puzzle tells the story of the picture you once saw, except you realize the picture was imagined, and yet the pieces still fit perfectly into the imagined picture, and at the same time, the pieces build a different picture, and you realize from day one, every piece of the puzzle was used to groom you, to see the picture in your mind, and then used to manipulate the picture you saw as different than what you see. That's the discard or the escape. After leaving, you see now that the picture you were building was quite different from the puzzle pieces laid out before you, and how it all fit together according to the picture that had been sold to you. Again, that's the trauma and the PTSD. Surviving. Now you build your own picture. And you find your own pieces. And for the first time in a long time, it all makes perfect sense. And that is you as a survivor. So again, these pieces are all on my Facebook page. Okay. I want to read you one more thing. As you are a trauma victim and a survivor, as much as you wish to look forward and as much as you want to be in the present, you have to go back and heal that inner child. In the course of this relationship, I've lost many friends. I lost my home, my car, my job, my dog. I've had to rebuild everything from the ground up. It has been one of the hardest things because I realize that I'm white, I'm privileged, I did all the right things for all the right reasons, but for a very wrong person. And I lost everything, but I gained so much more than I ever lost. But it's been hard as hell to climb back up to something that looks normal. So, as much as you are looking forward and you are learning to live in the present, you have to look back. You have to look back at the relationship, but you have to look back before the relationship. And so I did just that. So here is a piece I wrote, if I can get to it. It's called 10. So here we go. 10. I was molested at 10 by a neighbor. It didn't feel wrong. I was only 10, and I was confused. I laid there silently, and then it was done. I got up and went home. He told me not to tell anyone, but I didn't know why. So I told my brother, who told my mother, who told my father. My father threatened the old man with a gun, and then we never spoke of it again. I ate my cries. I ate my confusion. I had faith in God. 12. When I was 12, my sister was 18. She had lost weight, but gained male attention. She changed. I didn't like the changes. I associated the changes with male attention. I didn't want anyone to love me for my looks. Attention for my looks felt superficial. I didn't want to change. I ate to hide. I ate to stay the same. I had faith in God. 16. I grew up. I was a heavy teenager. I had a few friends, but I was afraid to be me. I studied. I achieved. I wrote. I hid behind words and accomplishments. I did as I was told. I conformed. I pleased others. I ate to find comfort. I ate to belong. I had faith in God. 20. I never dated. I loved from afar. I loved words and books, so I went to college. I loved my house, my family, my world. It was small. I was a good girl. I sought approval. My world crashed when my father died. I was 20. I ate in silence. I ate to console. I had faith in God. 24, 25, 29. I had sex for the first time at 24. It meant everything and it meant nothing. I felt pain and confusion. It was a photo frozen in my mind, and yet I wanted to forget. I married him at 25. I thought I was supposed to. I lived as others thought I should. I had no voice of certainty. I divorced him at 29. I ate in pain. I ate in failure. I had faith in God. "32. I dated a guy for 10 years who didn't please me, didn't love me, and didn't support me. I was alone even when I was with him and others. Sex between us was silent and non-existent. I tried to speak. I tried to understand. I was dismissed. I ate in feeling nothing. I ate my loneliness. I had faith in God. 38. I gained weight as I lost sight. I gained weight as I was silenced. I earned degrees, but it was never enough. I was a teacher and I inspired others, but not myself. I was angry. I was sad. I was depressed. At 38, I lost my best friend, my mother. I ate in sadness. I ate my emotions. I had faith in God. "45. One brother was ill. One brother was arrested. My sister was mentally ill. I understood nothing. My faith was huge, but I was lost. I was Christian, but I was teaching at a Muslim school. I opened my mind. I opened my heart. I opened my mouth. I shared everything with everyone. I was loved in spite of it. I was understood in spite of it. I grew in spite of my setbacks. I ate in the light. I ate with others. I had faith in God. 50. It was a new decade. I was half of 100. I only looked forward. I chose me. I choose now. I chose to journal. I found me. I dated me. I accepted me. I loved me. I smiled in laughter. I loved in hope. I believed in faith. I spoke in truth. I ate in love. It tasted so sweet. God had faith in me. So, 50. I met a man. He was a mirror. He wore a mask. He loved my curves. He loved my sass and my smarts. He loved my money. He lied. He cheated. He faked. He abused. I cried. I was traumatized. I was sad. I was shrinking. I cried in silence. I ate in shame and blame. God had faith in me. 53. I spoke up. I gained strength. I gained wings. I flew. I screamed for others. I demanded respect. I set boundaries. I ate in savor. I ate to savor. I enjoyed the flavor. God had faith in me. 59. That's me. I am who I am. I've been where I've been. I'm going where I'm going. I will see places. I will share faces. I will enjoy spaces. I eat to renew. I eat to savor the old. I am now bold and far greater than any past. God has faith in me, and I, for the first time, have faith in me. I've never read that before. I've never shared that before. I'm going to read one more thing and then I will leave you. I'm a DV survivor of narcissistic abuse. Tanya, my heart goes to you. Thank you for being here. I am a DV survivor of narcissistic abuse. I have endured emotional, mental, social, intellectual, physical, sexual, and financial abuse. I now must claim anxiety, depression, and complex PTSD as part of my journey. It has been a road of acceptance of my own trauma and also healing childhood wounds. We often lose much to gain more. I wrote this on the night I was evicted from the home where I had endured so much abuse from him. And leaving the home was actually a good thing, but it was hard. It was hard. On this night, I write the next chapter of a book I lived and pages I turned, along with memories I burned. Survivors of trauma often live in a state of fight or flight. We are fighting so hard in so many ways for so many reasons that we aren't sure at times what we are even fighting for some days. We fight for peace. We fight for understanding. We fight for illusions. We fight for sanity. We fight for what we want. We fight for voice. In flight, we also fight. We fight for peace through silence. We fight for understanding through knowledge. We fight for illusions that seemed like a reality. We fight for sanity as we process. We fight for what we want as we escape. We fight for voice with screams and silence. At the end of the day, we fight for the flight to let go. We let go of blame. We let go of shame. We let go of illusions. We let go of confusion. We let go of chaos. We let go of trauma. We let go of tears. We let go of anxiety. We let go of fear. We let go of change. We simply, over time, let go. Letting go is the culmination of fight and flight. Letting go is the culmination of fight and flight. So tonight I am letting go of a fight to save a reality that never existed. Tonight I let go of confusion that was nothing more than chaos twisted. If I can tell you anything about the process of becoming a survivor, I know this one thing. The reality of the illusion is the game, and the illusion of the reality is not your blame or shame. Let go of the emotional games of your trauma and work to foster a love of self far greater than any love known on earth. Let an inner guide help find the you that exists among all the twists of a reality you will create for yourself. Survivors survive. Survivors thrive. Survivors let go. Tonight, my fight and flight culminate in letting go. Sometimes we miss an old us while waiting impatiently for a new us. But don't miss out on who you were. Don't miss out on who you could be by looking back to an old version of you. Instead, love the present you and the healing you, and know you are always on the road to being an improved version of you. Because in reality, there isn't an old you and there isn't a new you. There has always been a greater you, just around the bend of a winding road. In gratitude, 11:11. Tanya, I'm glad you were here. Hippie, Kimmy, I'm sorry that we have shared such a similar experience. For all of us who have walked this road, as I have said, if you know, you know. And if you don't, be grateful. Tanya, I'm so glad you're here. Please reach out to me if you would like to talk further. I want to thank my journaling community. Because they have welcomed me in a way that I don't have in my real world, so to speak. So, if a survivor tells you their story, please believe them. Please hug them. Please love them. Please know them. Kimmy, it is one of the hardest and yet and most therapeutic things you could ever do. And yet, I never want to do it. It'll take me a little bit to recover. But I know damn good and well I didn't go through all this shit to hold it in and eat away at me. No. My mom said I could be whatever I wanted to be and I could change the world, and I will. And so I push and I fight. And Kimmy, I'll hold your hand virtually, but I'll hold your hand. And yeah, so I want to thank everyone for being here. I know that tonight may have been hard for some of you. I never want you to give up. I never want you to think that it is your fault. I only want you to grow and change and be the best you can be. Because as I said, there's not an old you and there's not a new you. There has always been a greater you just around the bend. And so, thank you, Miss Patricia. Thank you, everyone on the Real Change page. I have not multitasked well. Thank you all for the love and the likes and the shares. Thank you for listening to me. Thank you for watching this, even without my teeth. Yeah. So, appreciate all your being here, and I'll be back tomorrow. I can't even remember who my guest is tomorrow. I think it's part 2 of the Gabby story. But thank you all. And please remember, domestic violence also is not just with an intimate partner. Domestic abuse occurs within a family, within a home you make. It can be siblings, parents. Narcissistic abuse is one of those that's it is a very thin line between reality and illusion, and it is not called the crazy maker for nothing. So thank you all for being here. I really, really honestly appreciate your support. I'm glad I was able to see a few familiar faces out there, and I am so grateful that I hope some people who needed to hear something heard something. So, Tanya, Kimmy, all of you that I know, all of you that I don't know, thank you so much. And I will see you tomorrow night. So I'm going to say goodbye on TikTok. Thanks, everyone, and I'll see you tomorrow night at 9 p.m. And for those of you on the Real Change page over here, thanks, Rainey. Oh my goodness. I know it was a lot of reading tonight. I have a lot to say. So thank you again for being here. I'm gonna jump off and go drink my coffee. And thank you all again for your love and your support. Thank you for being here. Karen, Patricia, Carol, Rainey, Miss Gina, Shirley, you guys don't know how much you mean to me. So thank you for being in my world, even though for some of you I have never met you. But I know you heart to heart and soul to soul, and that is more important. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Miss Sarah. I appreciate your being here. Thank you, Jenneth. Yeah. Thank you, Danae. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, everyone, and I'll see you back tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Have a great night. Bye.